welcome to Perspectives. I'm Sebastian Gomes. We have a special guest in studio today, but first, one important news item to share with you. Pope Francis has appointed a new apostolic nuncio to the United States. Archbishop Christophe Pierre, originally from France, served as nuncio to Mexico since 2007 and takes over from Archbishop Carlo Maria Viganò, who reached retirement age earlier this year. In an official statement welcoming the nuncio, the president of the American Bishops' Conference, Joseph Kurtz, said a shared closeness with the church in Mexico already creates a strong fraternal bond between us. Now, I mentioned we have a special guest with us in studio today. Father Tom Smolich is the new International Director of Jesuit Refugee Service and is here in Toronto to give a lecture on the topic, 60 Million Refugees, a Global Challenge. Father Smolich, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Sebastian.
It's great to have you here. Now, you took over for JRS in the middle of what is the most crazy refugee crisis that we've seen since the Second World War. Now, in those 6 months since you've taken over, what have you learned about this global crisis?
Well, certainly I've learned that it is global. Perhaps 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we could think, well, there's a crisis here and a crisis there. But indeed, it is a worldwide phenomenon. Part of my job is to travel to our various regions. We have 10 regions serving in 45 different countries. I was in Indonesia earlier this year and learned that the largest group of refugees there are Afghani. Who would have thought that Afghanis are in Indonesia? Right. You multiply that story on this sort of global level and you realize that we really are connected. And whatever solutions might be able to come to this crisis will have to be global, will have to involve all of us.
Now you're giving a major talk tonight here in Toronto. Tell us a little bit about what you want to say. What's the message?
Well, it is a reflection on this reality of 60 million refugees, 60 million people on the move, forcibly on the move, people not choosing to move. And basically what I'd like to talk about are three things. One is the dimensions of this global reality, that we can't expect to solve one crisis without looking at this entire picture. I'd like to move from there to talk specifically about what's going on in Syria and the US right now and how I think that's sort of a galvanizing moment for understanding what needs to be done to sort of move through this, and then also look at some forgotten areas and say how these need to be included in any resolution. And finally, I think invite those who are there to reflect a little bit in our own hearts of the power of fear. We're always afraid of many things, but fear is not a good place to make a decision out of. And I think a lot of the policies, a lot of the considerations going on come from a place of fear.
I want to ask you too about the Pope's upcoming visit to Greece. He's going to Lesbos this Saturday, actually. Right. It's kind of a sudden announcement. It came about. But this is very typical of Pope Francis, that he sees an area that where there's a problem area where there's a lot of people suffering, and he wants to go and be close to them. Now, this is in the wake of the Turkey-EU deal that is trying to essentially send back some of these refugees back to Turkey and other parts of the Middle East from where they come. But what's the significance of the Pope's visit to this specific island, to Greece, on the frontier of where these refugees are coming into Europe?
I would see three things in this. One, we remember that Pope Francis' first travel outside of Rome was to Lampedusa, where migrants were arriving from Africa. He's saying this is an important issue. By going to Lesbos, he's choosing to go there in a very intentional way. I think the second point, which is very important, that he's meeting Orthodox leaders there as well. He's saying this is not just a Catholic issue, this is also an issue of the Christians in Greece. And I think by choosing to be on Lesbos, he's, I think, quite explicitly saying what Europe is doing right now is wrong. To make Greece the sort of holding box for people who want to come, to, for lack of a better word, treating migrants and refugees as cattle, as commodities to be traded back and forth across borders is wrong. And I think to let people have to make this trip across the seas when there would be other ways to welcome people in a more structured fashion, which would give people hope of actual safety.
Father Tom, I want to thank you very much for coming in today. It's great to talk to you, and wish you all the best in your talk tonight here in Toronto.
Thank you very much, and thanks for this opportunity to be with you.